At the end of lesson 1.5, you're going to see for the first time an interaction sequence. An interaction sequence is a series of activities all within one section of a ULAT lesson whose goal is to simulate conversation, what it would be like to be involved in an actual interaction with someone using your new language, in this case, an interaction with me. So we'll go to the end of lesson 1.5. And here you see that the interaction sequence begins with a series of 3 symbolic directions. The first tells you that you're to form a question. The second activity, you're to listen to something. And the third, you're to answer a question. Well, the question you're to form is this one right here. In this case, this question is asking, I'll do this in English for simplicity's sake, do you live in New York? And you will form that question. And then you can click on any of these images in here whether or not you form the question correctly. The second activity, you will listen to my answer to that question by clicking on this image of the computer mouse, and you will hear me answer and say, no, I don't live in New York. But at the end of my answer, I will ask the question, I'll turn it around and ask the question of you. And I'll say, and you? Do you live in New York? That's where the third activity comes in. You will answer that question. So let's go through it. I'll simulate it right now. The first, you will say, do you live in New York? You'll click on the image of the mouse and you'll hear, no, I don't live in New York. Do you live in New York? And you will answer that question. So you'll do that same activity for all 4 of the questions in this particular section right here. And at the end of these 4 questions you've formed and answers you've heard and answers you've given, you come to a video in which we go through the same 4 questions, but where the 2 of us interact in a little bit more natural fashion. I'll show you the video so that we can talk about the different elements of it. This one happens to be in Spanish. Here I'm explaining simply what we're going to do together. Now I'm laying forth what the verb is which will be used in this first question. Here I'm reviewing with you how that verb will be used when the subject is you, how that verb will be formed when the subject is you. And now, I'm showing you, at least in Spanish, how it is that a question can be formed. Notice the image of the symbolic direction indicating forming a question in the upper left-hand corner. That's there simply to indicate to you that a question is being formed at this moment.
Vives tú, y la tú no la necesitamos.
I'm giving supplementary information regarding how a question is formed in Spanish. Notice the picture of New York, which is appearing in the upper left-hand corner. This pictures appear when new vocabulary is used in the midst of the conversation, just to help illustrate to you the meaning of these words. They only appear there briefly. Now notice I'm making a gesture like this. I'm indicating I want you to provide an answer at this point. There's going to be a pause in the video during which I will say nothing. I may put my hand to my ear to indicate I'm trying to listen to you. I want you to answer my question. And that simply means that you are to go ahead and verbalize an answer to my question. So you hear the pause. Now, by the way, if this pause is too short, it's too brief, you don't have enough time to provide your answer because you're still struggling a little bit with the formation of your sentences, you should feel free to stop the video and then to start it again once you've formed your statement. Now you see me nodding my head indicating that, yes, I understand your answer. I'm, of course, pretending that I can hear your answer. And at that point, I point back at myself, and that means I want you to ask me the same question. I just ask you, do you live in New York? And you answered during the pause in the video. And now I want you to ask me if I live in New York. Again, the question symbol appears in order to indicate that you're to provide or to form a question at this point. And again, I put my hand to my ear indicating that I'm listening, go ahead and tell me something, say something to me.
Yo no.
And then I provide, last of all, my answer to your question.
En Nueva York. Yo no vivo en Nueva York. Yo vivo
And here I'm telling where I
en
do live,
Michigan.
in Michigan. So the picture of Michigan appears in the upper left-hand corner to help you with new vocabulary, since you would not have heard that word up to this point necessarily. Okay, I hope you understand. There'll be a series of 4 questions in this particular video. Later on in the ULAT, our conversations will be much, much longer, but that's an interaction sequence. Okay, now you can go back to your lesson.